It's that time of the year again. Welcome to 3 Levels Deep and the 2023 games of our year, the GooYs. I'm Santo, and this year we got Alex with us.
Hey everyone.
And Matt's here as well.
Howdy.
And we are going to go over the games that we played last year on a number of different categories. As a reminder, we're not exclusively going by games that came out last year, just games that we played last year, because we all got lots of backlogs to go through. So,
oh yeah.
So there's going to be some games of old in these categories here.
I think my year was pretty much it was a lot of stuff from 2023. It wasn't much that wasn't from that year.
I had very little, actually. 2023 didn't have a ton of games that I was super jazzed about.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that I'm kind of in the same boat. I didn't play a lot of new stuff, although I say that, and I actually did play probably more actually new releases this year than I have in some past years. But overall, it was mostly older games.
Well, speaking of older games that we were trying to get out of our backlog, the first category that we have here are our New Year's resolution games. So let's just quickly go over this little book report here of how we did. So for me, my New Year's resolution games from last year were Pyre, still haven't started. Marvel's Midnight Suns, which I played to completion and talked about that on the podcast. And Persona 1 and 2. I actually did play a little bit of the first Persona, but bounced off it really quickly because it's old.
What version were you playing?
I was playing the PSP version.
Okay, because I hear that is the better one.
Yeah. And I don't really have much to say about it. I only played it for one session and just never went back to it. The setup's kind of thin is the only thing I'll say to it. I expected more stuff to go on. If you think about Persona 4, for example, how many hours are you playing that game before you get to the first dungeon?
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Like 3.
Yeah,
I think it is.
So Persona 1 puts you into the action a little bit more, but for a game that's I don't know, still finding its footing as more of a Shin Megami Tensei game. It didn't really get too much into the character story focus until later, I guess. Maybe that's why, I don't know.
It's almost as if there's other Persona games more deserving of a modern remake than Persona 3.
Yeah. But, I mean, I heard Persona 1's rough anyways, and that Persona 2 is more interesting, so maybe I'll get to that this year, but it's not going to be one of my New Year's resolution games for this year. So next, let's talk to Matt here. You had a lot of New Year's resolutions.
Yeah. So the first one I want to address is I said I wanted to cut back on purchasing on Steam. Yep. Yeah, that went out the window.
Oh, no, capitalism sale? Nah. Had to support it.
No, the backlog is eternal and it must keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next one wasn't really a... It wasn't confined just to last year, but it's just to clear out all the other games from Supergiant Games before Hades 2 enters full release, which it still hasn't even entered early access yet. So I think I'm still good. And I did play Bastion.
Oh,
so
nice.
That just leaves me with Pyre and finishing up the storylines I haven't finished in Hades.
Hey, maybe if we play Pyre, we can actually try the multiplayer.
So how did you like Bastion?
I thought it was all right. Certainly not my favorite Transistor game, but it's
Transistor game
or Supergiant game. Certainly not my favorite game from Supergiant, but no, it's a pretty good game.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I also had play some more Resident Evil titles on mine, which I did. At that time, I was working through 2. I finished 2. I played 3, and I played 4 Remake and its DLC. So that was about it for Resident Evil last year. So I did make progress. And I said I wanted to play some more Yakuza.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Well, as I said on another episode of the podcast, rather than just pick up from 3, I decided to start all over again from 0. And I'm still playing that right now. I picked it back up again recently. So yeah, that one didn't go too well.
And you had one more, which was Ace Attorney.
Yes. I did make progress on that. Now, initially, I started out early in the year. I played the first case of Investigations.
Good.
And that's still all game. I've played from that. But then, under the pressure of time constraints to be able to claim the DLC, I did play Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright.
That's such a crazy game.
Indeed it
with
is.
A really, really silly... the setup is so silly.
There's some plot holes.
Oh yeah, like
there's some big plot
completely
holes right
implausible. Big plot holes in the beginning, huge plot holes with the twist at the end. Yeah, it's a great game, but you don't think about it too hard.
Yeah, no, and those plot holes lead into creating a plot hole in the opening sequence.
Yep. All right. And now, Alex, you had 3 things that you said were New Year's resolutions. The first was a VR game called Rumble.
Yep. I haven't gotten to that.
Okay.
This year, I don't think I have really not played much, if any, VR. Partly that's just because the house is in a bit of disarray.
Yeah, you kind of can't.
Newborn.
You can't put a headset on when there's a baby.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge there. We don't really have a good space for VR, so VR hasn't happened. Yeah, and then another thing I had was I think I put Dwarf Fortress on it.
You did.
I did. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for Dwarf Fortress. I just don't. What was I even thinking putting that on there? Well, I was thinking Dwarf Fortress is awesome. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, it's a new version, right? Official art.
Yeah, and then the last thing I think I had as a New Year's resolution game is actually getting rolled over because it's been delayed, which is Homeworld 3. Or maybe I had Homeworld Replay before Homeworld 3.
You just had Homeworld, and Homeworld 3 was one of your most anticipated for next year.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
so did you end up revisiting the other Homeworld games?
No, I haven't gotten a chance to that. I know I was thinking like, oh man, over Christmas, I'll like have some time to like play more games, and that didn't happen. This was a very busy Christmas for me, so did not have time to actually like go into the backlog.
It's fine. You're
first Christmas.
You're like most people. You didn't do your New Year's resolution at all.
I
bet if you went on Facebook Marketplace right now and looked for gym equipment, probably find some deals.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So in terms of what we kind of want to set up for ourselves to play in 2024, for me, Pyre again. I swear I'll get to it this year. And the next one is a series which I've bought every entry into this series, but I've only played through the first one, and that was years ago. And that's Professor Layton. The new Professor Layton game got announced. I really enjoyed the first Professor Layton game. I love me some puzzles, love me some touchscreen. some DS games. So there's not a great reason why I haven't played more of those games yet. So I'm gonna try to, maybe put my 3DS on my bedside table and just like stare at it while I'm going to bed to get in the mood to play some matchsticks puzzles, But yeah, that's it for me for that. Because when I say Professor Layton, that's 5 games to play, maybe 6. I'm not quite sure.
There's 4 on the DS alone, so that's 3 more to go just on the DS for you.
There's 3 on the DS, okay. And I think there's 3 for the 3DS. So
yeah,
okay.
And
so
then there's that one where you're playing as his daughter as well on the Switch.
And then there's a mobile game where you're playing as his brother, the Professor Layton Extended Universe. All right, so Alex, what are you resolute in attempting to play this year?
Okay, so I do actually want to get... I'm rolling over Homeworld 1 and 2. I do want to play those before 3 comes out. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm not sure when 3 is even going to come out.
Yeah.
Games just get delayed.
I think as of right now, I think it's in the first quarter, maybe early second.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like late first quarter or early second. But yeah, so I want to throw those in there. And then the other thing I'm going to throw on here, there's a couple games I missed that came out this year that I do want to play. I want to play Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's probably like really up there. And I know obviously that game is pretty massive, but I think I'm just gonna go for it at some point. I think the other thing is like the Nintendo tax is so steep. I'm like, man, I don't want to spend $90 on this game. Like, even if it's great, it's just so steep. So I think my sister has it, and I think one of my sisters has it, and she finished it, and then she gave it to my other sister, and I'm like, okay, once my second sister's done playing it, I'm just gonna borrow the cartridge, and then I'll play it.
Hand-me-downs.
Hey, you know what? This is why I still buy carts for the Switch. The games are too expensive. Resale value, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo games never go down in price.
Yeah, and then sort of similar, except I'll probably actually buy it. Pikmin 4. I like the Pikmin games, and I heard Pikmin 4 was pretty good. It's got and you know why I'm kind of sad that I missed it. It's got a great dog. It's got a great dog. I can't put him in for this year's awards. So, but yeah, I think those are revisiting Homeworld 1 and 2, Tears of the Kingdom, and Pikmin 4. Those are my resolution games this year. Whether that's achievable, I have no idea.
All right.
I will say actually, although I did kind of. We'll get to this later, but although I didn't play Homeworld, I did play a game this year by the developers of Homeworld.
Oh.
Which the listeners of the podcast will already know, because I think we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it last episode.
Yeah.
But if you didn't listen to that or you forgot, we'll leave you in suspense.
Suspense!
All right, so Matt, don't leave us in suspense. What are you looking forward to playing and getting off your backlog this year?
Well, the Supergiant games that rolls over. Gotta get through Pyre and finish up Hades, but outside of that, I don't have much else rolling over. I want to dive into the Remedyverse.
Yeah.
Because you've played Quantum Break.
Yes, that's it so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to dive in. I want to jump into Max Payne 1 and 2 first. Get into the head of the author before jumping into Alan Wake. But yeah. Aside from that, 2021 I think it was, where our game of our year was Outer Wilds, if I'm remembering correctly. I love that game, and I still have not played its DLC.
Yeah, I think we were like humming and hawing about doing a let's play of it or something.
Yeah, but like I wanna get to that DLC because I absolutely love that game, and I want more experiences in it.
Cool.
And aside from that, I'm rolling over the Like a Dragon or Yakuza series into this year because it's very fitting, because this is the year of the dragon.
There we go.
So I wanna get through some more Yakuza. Yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, so I'll look forward to our report next year to see what percentage of these we actually complete. But, that's not the only thing that you might look at, because our next category is Best Looking Game. So I think last year we might have called this, like, Coolest Art or something. But
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, just like, what games, like, stunned us visually this year. I can go first. I've got some odd nominations this year. My best looking game this year is Honkai Star Rail.
Oh, okay.
And my justification is that a lot of games with anime art style don't really... They don't fulfill what I think they're trying to do in 3 dimensions very much. A lot of the time it's like really good 2D like character portrait art, but then the 3D models don't really match that art style that much. They're like kind of facsimiles of what the characters are supposed to look like, but just like in terms of lighting, shading, even just like fidelity, they just haven't been there for a very, very long time. And now we're finally like getting to the point where something like Honkai Star Rail, it looks gorgeous. Like the shading on all the characters, the quality of the animations, and the frame rate of the animations as well. Like seeing like CG in traditional animation is so hilarious because they like always like try to cut the frame rate to match like the scene, like the traditional animation frame rate, and it always just looks jarring to me. So seeing, like really well made anime looking 3D models animating fluidly and well was really good to see. I also just liked a lot of the art and aesthetic around it, including like a lot of the UI looked really nice too. So I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite, but I do like the character designs. Like they're, very flashy, very over designed, but it's a gacha game that makes sense. Like the characters are supposed to, evoke people wanting to spend money to quote unquote own them. So
they need to look like they want to make you gamble for them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my pick this year.
Cool. Maybe I'll go next. So my pick for best looking game, and part of me was like, do I nominate this game? I don't know, because this game has flaws, but one of the things that is not a flaw of this game is that it looks great, and so I'm nominating Sea of Stars for best looking game.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's one of the reasons that
honestly,
like,
I saw that coming.
Yeah, like, and like really, as soon as I saw a trailer for the game, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play this game because the game looked great, and I've said this before, but the game's aesthetics in general are extremely on point. And mixing like that classic 2D sprite work and like particle effects and lighting in a really seamless way is, I think, probably pretty challenging, because I'm pretty sure that even though the characters are 2D sprite work, I think that they actually have 3D models of the characters to make the lighting engine work, because there's like dynamic 3D lighting, which is kind of an interesting thing to see in what is basically a SNES style sprite work kind of aesthetic. So really, really cool and well done with how seamless it is. It's like you're talking about like, oh, mixing 2D anime animation and 3D animation. Well, this is like mixing sprite work and like a 3D lighting engine, which is not an easy thing to make look so good, I don't think. But But yeah, for all the faults that game has, looking bad is not one of them. The game looks great. And I think it's, at least in terms of how it looks, it's kind of a timeless look to the game. Very intentionally. So.
I'm glad you nominated that, because, for all the faults that game does have, like, it should be recognized for what it did do well, which was the visuals.
Yeah.
All right, so my nomination, well, I don't think it's necessarily the best looking of what I've played. I think it's the most deserving, just because it gave a series a much-needed visual refresh, and that's Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Really? Okay.
Because, like, the previous games, like, the visual style was just starting to wear. It looked kind of generic.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and Wonder's art style just brings in a bunch of personality that it was missing.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that I totally agree, and yet I couldn't actually tell you why. Because I don't know, to me, like it does seem to me more like an evolution of the sort of art style that they were already doing. But that it does have it, like, it definitely has a lot more character, but I couldn't really pin down like exactly why it does.
I always thought that like the first New Super Mario Bros. For the DS kind of looked soulless to me. I really didn't like how that looked there. I think the Wii and the Wii U New Super Mario Bros. Looked a lot better. They were a lot more colorful. But like Matt said, it's time for a change.
The visual style stagnated through 3 games, because you can't forget about New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS as well.
I'm not forgetting about it. I've just never seen gameplay from it, so I don't know if like the fidelity of the models and effects and all that stuff held up on the 3DS. My guess is it probably didn't.
Yeah, when you look back at the series and how, with the exception of Mario 1 to Lost Levels, every other game had like a new, refreshed art style.
What about Galaxy to Galaxy 2?
Well, in terms of 2D Mario.
Yeah, Galaxy 2 was a DLC, let's be real.
But yeah, in terms of 2D Mario, traditionally there was always a visual refresh each game, so for it to stagnate on that one art style for as long as it did, Wonder did a good job at refreshing it and giving it some personality.
Yeah. Something I always felt like with like right from the first New Super Mario Bros. Was that the art style basically just looked like their promotional CGI. They'd have like, 3D models that are used in like promo, like on the box art and whatever, and it just looked like that. But it was kind of soulless, and it was just like, it literally was just like promo box art. I wouldn't put it past them if they were just like, hey, we've already got these 3D models lying around. So yeah, I definitely agree. It looks a lot better, but it's funny because the only thing I'm just like, it seems more like an evolution than like a totally new direction. But I think the big thing is just that the animations are so much better, more than anything else. Which is one of the reasons why, like, I know when people were saying that, and I was just looking at stills of the game, I was like, I don't know, it doesn't look that much different. But then the game itself is a lot more energetic and fun and full of character. It also, I think, might be just the fact that the game changes so damn much. Like, every level has, like, some unique thing going on where they're like, yep, we're just going to make one-off art assets for this single level.
Yep.
Which is an immense amount of work that they put into all that.
Okay. I think those are 3 pretty strong games. So now we actually have to come to the difficult part of this, which is picking a winner. I'm tempted to lean... I really do like Honkai Star Rail. I don't know. I think I'm tempted to lean towards Sea of Stars.
I think I am too, actually.
Yeah, because like what I never want to see with pixel art games these days is games just using pixel art and not taking advantage of modern techniques. And Sea of Stars feels like that they not only use modern techniques, but maybe even innovated in the space, potentially. Don't really know how they did things behind the scene. Like, for example, Alex, you said you were speculating, like, maybe there's 3D models for the characters that they use their lightings on. Maybe, like, they're actually sprites, but they have, like, a 3D, like, analytical model, like, that goes along with them to determine things, like weird math and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, they could be using a sprite and that they kind of put a depth map on for like the lighting engine. That could be it. I'm not really sure. I'm not well versed in those kinds of lighting techniques, but what I know is that you can, like, because you have direct control later in the game over the lighting system in a way, and you can, like, literally just move the shadows back and forth and just be like, whoa. The other thing, actually, the other reason that Sea of Stars is kind of more impressive to me than Mario Wonder or Honkai Star Rail is that, but those are both games by massive studios with huge development teams, and like a Nintendo game, I kind of expect a Nintendo game to look good, right?
Yeah, you'd expect that.
You would expect that, unless it's Pokemon, but that's that's not Nintendo. We can blame the Pokemon company for that, or Game Freak. But yeah, Sea of Stars Incorporated. Yeah. And Honkai Star Rail was also, like, they spent a huge amount of money.
It's the third game from the MiHoYo.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, whereas Sea of Stars was I think not even a dozen people or something, or maybe
it was more than okay. I looked at the page and there were like 5 or 6 people that worked on everything but the art, and like 18 artists.
Okay,
there were a lot of artists for that, and that was the studio's second game. Like I agree with you. Yeah,
the Messenger.
Yeah, I agree with you that, like, yeah, in a vacuum that's maybe more impressive, but personally, I don't really care all that much. Like, the size of the studio, which is maybe more impressive, that I still think it's the best looking game out of these 3.
Yeah. All right. So Sea of Stars. It sounds like all 3 of us are kind of like in agreement on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Best looking game, Sea of Stars. Other people gave it Game of the Year, so we have to give it well, we don't have to give it anything, but we're giving it we're giving it an award in what we think it did actually well. We're not going to get sidetracked on this.
Yeah, we already talked about that game for like an hour and a half or
way
something.
Too long.
So
go if you want our full thoughts, you know, there's an episode that's half.
There's an episode for that.
Sea of Stars ranting.
So for our next category, we have the category that, you know, highlights our faithful furry companions during the year. It's Best Dog. We've had some great dogs in the past win this award, like Caesar from Wargroove, and Doxbun from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So excited to hear what your guys' nominations for Best Dog are this year.
Well, my nomination for Best Dog is the unnamed dog from Resident Evil 4 Remake, making a return from the original. This is a dog that you come across that's caught in a bear trap, and you can choose to ignore it and walk away. But if you free the dog, it comes back to help you in a boss fight.
That's awesome. How helpful is it in that boss fight?
It distracts the boss. It's like a big, like, lumbering ogre thing, and it does provide a good distraction. And get some pretty good hits in.
All right, that's pretty good. My nomination for Best Dog is going to be from Lion Monster Farm, and it is the special collaboration monster that they did with the Japanese mobile phone / investment holdings company SoftBank, and that is Mechadad.
Mechadad.
So, okay, for context, SoftBank has this long-running series of commercials that feature a Shiba Inu, but it talks, and it is the father of a family. Don't ask too many questions.
Makes sense.
So they decided to put this dog into into the game as a collaboration, and it's a very odd collaboration. But they didn't just put in, just a regular dog to fight in this monster game. They decided to give the dog a Geordie the LaForge visor and a rocket backpack. So
that's clearly a steel dark type.
Yeah.
No, that's a Digimon.
That's a
You know what?
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know
right,
what?
you're right.
You're right. It's a Digimon.
Yeah. Champion stage for sure. So yeah, and that's Mechadad. And he's got some unique attacks for him specifically in the game too. So for a very weird collaboration that shouldn't have worked, they put in the effort to make it work, and it's a good boy and a good dad.
So I guess I'll get to my dog nominee. You know what's funny? I'm sort of on the fence, mostly because there weren't actually a lot of dogs in the games I played this year, and one of them I want to nominate him, but he already won a previous year, and I'm like, should I really be nominating Sequel Dog, which is the same dog?
Yeah, I could have nominated Cosmo the Space Dog a second time because it is in Marvel Snap.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. Wargroove 2 came out. Caesar's still in there. Caesar's still a good boy. But I think I'm actually going to nominate Poochie from Yoshi's Crafted World.
Okay. I'm like, Poochie. Was there a Simpsons game that you played this year?
No. He's in Yoshi's Crafted World, Poochie is... Look at that boy. He doesn't have ears. He doesn't need them.
Fabric can't hear anyways.
Fabric can't hear. Yeah, really, really cute looking dog. It's a cute game. Actually, I think I've mentioned this. There are some levels that are surprisingly difficult and annoying. But overall, the concept of what Poochie does in Yoshi's Crafted World is that every level has like a backside, and you basically go through the level backwards from behind. So there might be things which are kind of hidden behind fabric or cardboard on the front side of the level, and then the camera, like from the back side of the level, you see like the back of cardboard, the back of fabric and stuff, and so it looks a little different. But when you're going through the backside, you are like, your goal, instead of collecting flowers, is to find all of the Poochie pups, and there's 3 Poochie pups in the level. And then the funniest thing is that once you get a Poochie pup, you know how Yoshi can throw eggs? Well, Yoshi can also throw Poochies. Except the Poochies come back to you. So they're like boomerang eggs, basically. It's really silly though, like throwing Poochie dogs at enemies. Just utterly ridiculous. Also, the sounds are very cute, and so I have to nominate Poochie for best dog from Yoshi's Crafted World.
On visuals alone, I'm leaning towards Mechadog.
Yeah.
Mechadad.
Mechadad.
Not just Mechadog.
Mr. Mechadog.
Mr.
Mechadad. All right, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, sure.
I do like Poochie though. I completely forgot that they added that to that Yoshi game. But
I mean, I think Poochie's been in there since Yoshi Story on the N64. I was gonna say Yoshi 64. I'm like, wait, that's not the actual name of the game.
All right, so I'm just gonna go here and bold Mechadad.
Mechadad would be bold.
Very bold. All right. So next category, which I kind of like how we do these two kind of together, because the best dog, it could also be the best character of a game. If the best dog of the year is so good that it rises above every other character in the game, it could win both.
It could win both.
So let's see if any of those dogs got nominated for best character here. Alex, why don't you start us off?
Oh, best character. This was a weird one for me because for some reason I I wasn't really feeling the characters in most of the games I played this year. And there were a few that like had story and had characters, but for some reason I just wasn't really feeling those. And I kind of took this in a bit of a different direction, and I'm choosing the pilot from Risk of Rain Returns because I just like the way he plays as a character. Just good gameplay for the pilot from Risk of Rain Returns. Also, he's in the intro cinematic for the game, so he panics when the ship's getting attacked in the intro cinematic, and I'm like, that's some character. He slams that emergency button. He's just like, oh shit, something's going wrong. Slam that big red button. Panic. Get out. Grabs a parachute. Leaves.
No shame in nominating a character based on mechanically how they are in the game.
Yeah, but mechanically, I really like the way the pilot plays.
All right.
So for my best character, I nominate Chai from Hi-Fi Rush. He's the main character you play as, and he's very much the lovable idiot character archetype.
Nice.
Very much like Fry from Futurama.
Yeah, that's the vibes I was getting from him in terms of character design a little bit too.
Oh yeah, no, it's there. It's just it's hard not to like him. But yeah, no, there wasn't really much for me this year that really stood out as great characters, but no, like it's hard not to like him, and just he's just so stupid. But in a good way.
Yeah, I didn't play that game, but I think I even remember just watching some of the cinematics with that character, and it was pretty funny.
All right, that's a good pick. So I was waffling on this one for a while. Like I'm the opposite. I had some a fair few characters I could have picked between here, even a few characters from the same game here, because I'm going to be picking a character from Octopath Traveler 2, and I'm going to be picking Partitio, the merchant. Now, Octopath...
What you buying?
Octopath has a very weird tone to it a lot of the times. A lot of the times the tone's very disparate because it's like 8 separate stories. Each of them range from like the dancer just wanting to like be a big star on the big stage to like extremely personal, familial, like revenge and stuff like that. Partitio, his story is definitely on like the lighter tone of the game, and Octopath in particular it walks a very fine line with the writing for the merchant class between like romanticizing mercantilism without glorifying capitalism. There's a very fine line that they walk there. And Partitio is fantastic in Octopath Traveler 2 because his storyline is that he wants to rid the world of poverty. Like his dad set up in like a silver mining town, but that ended up, booming for a bit and then busting. So he gets a first-hand experience, just like people struggling to make it in the world, and he's just like, I grew up with these like bright eyes, ideals for, money and stuff like that, but I'm going to go out into the world and make sure that poverty won't exist. And Partitio, it then becomes responsible for many things happening in the world of that game. For example, the game takes place kind of like very, very pre-industrial revolution. It's like just on the cusp of that happening. So some of the things that Partitio does is he invents the world's first department store.
Okay.
He becomes the patron for an inventor who invents the gramophone. So he's responsible for mass distribution of music in the world too. Like he buys his own ship so that you can actually you don't get given a ship in this game. You have to buy it as part of his quest line. And the big resolution to his story is this one guy who like kind of like did a shady contract with his dad that ended up like busting out that Silver Town. He has his own island, and he is like total evil capitalist asshole. And Particio goes to take him down because what this guy does is that his name, I think it's Rourke, something like that, or Rock. I think it's actually Rock. He acquires the patent and the rights for the steam engine, which, for Industrial Revolution, that's, very important.
Yeah,
so
kind of a big deal.
Yeah, kind of a big deal. So he's, going to be hold out with an iron fist and like only let like rich people, be able to use steam engines and profit from them, and he's not going to share it. So what Particio wants, though, is he wants to buy the patent from the guy so that he can freely distribute the technology. And he has to like get the backing of this like eccentric billionaire to help him out. And even after that, like the guy doesn't want to give up the patent. He just like said like named the price as just kind of like a bluff. And so he gets pissed and fights you with a gigantic steam locomotive. I love fighting trains in RPGs. They're the best boss fights, damn it.
Can you suplex this one though?
Unfortunately not. There's no suplexing in Octopath Traveler 2.
Missed opportunity.
I can use my owl companion to attack it. But after you win that battle, one of the best moments in the entire game is you have these like overworld abilities where you walk up to people, press a certain button, and it goes into like a menu for like being able to like talk them into helping you or stealing from them, or in Particio's case, buying things from them. So after you beat this guy, you actually have to physically move him up to Rock, press the button to interact, and go into a separate menu to buy the patents to the steam engine. So they even incorporate like the gameplay into that a little bit, and that was a fun little moment. So yeah, Particio. He also talks in a southern accent, so he says "yeehaw" a lot. It's very endearing. All right. As for what wins, I'm sorry, I can't back the pilot. I'm sorry, Alex. I just can't.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm kind of tempted to back this Hi-Fi Rush character whose name I have literally already forgotten. But
wow.
Chai.
Chai? All right.
Chai. Yeah, Chai. Like I said, I definitely watched some cutscene clips from the game, and he seemed like a good character. Fun character.
Yeah, like from the little bits that I saw Matt play of the game, like he was, the writing did it very, very well. He was very endearing. So I'm fine with Chai. Is it spelled Chai, like chai tea or something?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No, it's spelt latte.
You're gonna regret not picking Particio if you listen to his theme.
If I was picking on name alone, Particio is a great name.
Don't worry. You might be hearing his theme later.
Sounds like an Italian, It sounds like an Italian strategy game, is what it sounds like.
It's like Strategio and Parcheesi mixed together. So I think
exactly.
Isn't Parcheesi an Indian game?
I have no idea.
Okay, so next up we got our least well-defined category, which is most game. This is kind of like, game with the most mechanic, game that most feels like a game. Whatever definition we want to squeeze a game into for most game. For me, I have an argument for mine. My most game is going to be Marvel Snap, because the matches are so short that per hour you're playing the most games. And being a card game, like you got a bunch of different cards to put in your deck, and that means that you have a combinatorial crazy amount of decks that you could possibly play, lots of different interactions, the locations in the game that are random every game bring a fun little twist to how the game plays. So it was very rare for games of Marvel Snap to feel the same a lot until I started running up against like all the just meta decks, which is why I stopped playing. Anyways, so yeah, for sheer volume of games played, Marble Snap.
See, if I had played a Civ game, I would want to nominate it here for the opposite reason, which is it's the most hours per game instead of the most games per hour.
That's a valid argument.
You got to you got to min max. I didn't play a Civ game though, so I can't do that.
Well, what game did you play, Alex?
What game did
that you would
play?
nominate for this category?
What is most game? I mean, it's a bit of a toss up, but I think I'm going to nominate Noita. And I know technically this is not the first time. This is technically not the first year I've played Noita, but I've never nominated Noita before. And I actually, looking at my play history, played a shit ton of Noita in the first kind of quarter, basically. And the reason I'm nominating Noita for most game is because the game has the most mechanical depth of maybe anything that I've really played. The way that its like wand crafting system has spells interact with each other is insane. It's so insane that people are still developing new kinds of like abilities in the game. Like many years after the game has been thoroughly picked through, people are still like inventing new kinds of synergies between the different mechanics of the wand spells, which is absolutely insane to me. Like the level of depth, it's the kind of game where I put 100 hours into it, and after 100 hours, you just start to understand the game. Like that's the level of just mechanical depth that it has. It's there and there's almost like not a ceiling. It's insane to me. Just and then there's obviously like also a lot of intentionally obscure challenges and puzzles and difficulty in the game as well, which is there's not a lot of single player games with that level of just time you can put into it. And yeah, it's partly just the emergent complexity of the wand crafting system combined with challenges which would ordinarily be completely insane. Like just bosses which are completely unreasonably powerful unless you make absolute cheese wands that destroy the entire screen instantly every second or something dumb. Like just so yeah, that's what I'm going to nominate for most game because of its mechanical depth.
All right.
Yo, last minute here, I'm kind of having a crisis because something else just popped in my head that I could nominate for most game, but no, I think I gotta go with my original.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta go with Tears of the Kingdom.
Yep.
Yep.
Because not only do they take the existing map from Breath of the Wild and add this intricate Rube Goldberg contraption creation mechanic, but then they also add a floating sky islands to the world and an entire underground that spans the entire map. There is so much in that game.
Oh, jeez. That's tough. That's really tough. The thing is, like, okay, Tears of the Kingdom is a huge game. But now I know of two people that Noida has absolutely grasped in its grasp and just didn't let go. Like, how much, Sean has been absorbed in it, and, like, the insane times at which I've seen the Steam notification for Alex to start playing it. Like, I think I have to go with Noida here.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Yeah, I have almost 200 hours in it, and that's just basically just from this year. Just from and not even from this year. It's basically mostly from the first half of the year, just because I got really busy over the summer and fall with other stuff and playing other games. But there was oh man,
You needed to start playing games that you could hold baby in one arm,
exactly,
and game with the other.
That was actually a big thing, right? Is once baby came, it was kind of like, I tried playing some different stuff that I could. Oh man, that reminds me, I could do a category, best one-handed game.
That could have two meanings.
Yeah, you sure? You sure about that?
Maybe
best game to play while holding a baby.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Noida. Man, that's really tough. And if you hadn't gone for it, I probably would have just said Tears of the Kingdom, just because that game also seems to have an insane amount of emergent complexity.
Yeah, like that's really, really tough between those two. But
I mean, they both kind of have similar.
Now that Noida won something this year, can't be nominated again. It can't
be nominated anymore.
All right, we got that off our chest.
It's over unless it gets DLC, which it probably won't.
It won't get. I doubt it will get named DLC. It'll probably just get free updates.
It's actually been getting free updates again, even though the developers said no more updates, and then they're just doing updates again. Mostly because the community started making patches themselves, and then the developer was like, "Okay, fine, we'll take your patches.
We'll make them official."
Yeah, that basically.
All right.
So
most game is Noida. All right. So next we're gonna go over some personal categories, just categories that we all thought of ourselves to highlight games that we played this year that maybe didn't fit within other categories, or categories that we had a really good idea for, but probably wouldn't fit for the rest of the crew. We haven't really shared much of these with each other yet, so this is going to be a fun little surprise for all of us.
So I'm going to start off with the VTubers Made Me Do It award.
Oh no.
Okay.
And I got to give that to Suika Game, or Watermelon Game. Because I saw pretty much every VTuber and their mother playing it. And so I went to the extent of getting a Japanese eShop card online from PlayAsia and buying it. And then a week later, it was on North American eShop.
Is that a large subsection of content creators? Is VTubers moms?
Well, actually, so in VTuber terms, their mother is their artist.
Oh dear. Okay, I don't like that terminology at all. I don't know. I've seen a couple videos in my recommends of just trying to explain Pokemon to my dad and stuff like that.
But yeah, Suika Game just.
I've yet to
very addicting.
I've yet to play it or any of the multiple clones that I've seen.
There's so many clones at this point.
One time I looked at the Google Play most downloads for the week, and of the top 10 there were 3 Watermelon Game clones in there.
Wow.
So yeah, very very.
I mean, it seems like such a simple
very fun
but good
thing.
concept.
Yeah.
It's simple but very addicting.
All right. So my first of my personal categories, I'm gonna go with best game featuring the devil. And this is going to be Marvel's Midnight Suns. Now, part of the reason why I made this as a category is so that I could shit talk Diablo 4 and it not being the best game released this year that deals with the devil. But Marvel's Midnight Suns stars in some of the parts of the game Mephisto, who is the kind of the canonical sort of devil in Marvel comics, and he's a fun character, but just going beyond just devilness and just into general Satanism and cultism, most of the game is focused on kind of the occult, and that's how they use their storytelling, which is a really interesting setting, for a superhero game. Most of the superhero games and movies are, pretty straightforward superhero stories, to have one put into this occultism setting, beyond just, this storyline of the comics, which I don't read comics, was really it was really interesting to see, and was a tone that, I'm not that used to in seeing in games, so it was a good time.
Did Cult of the Lamb have the devil in it?
Yes. I played that last year though.
Oh, that was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
It felt like this year.
Though they did just have like a new big update. I might have to jump back in and check that out.
I was just trying to think of like what games do I know? I mean, Helltaker. I don't know.
Because apparently you can now breed your cultists.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, my first one, worst category. Sorry, worst category.
All right, worst category.
Personal. Well, so my first personal category, and yeah, this is why I got confused. Worst controls. Mm-hmm. Okay. Worst controls. My worst controls. I haven't talked about this game yet because I started playing it only at the very end of the year. But For the King 2.
Oh.
I don't hate the game, but my God, does it have the worst controls I have ever seen in any game ever.
That's a tall order.
It's really bad, dude. It's so bad. Like, if you try... So the game... Technically, the game supports a controller. It recognizes a controller. But the controllers do not work. The game has clearly been designed for use with a mouse and keyboard, but it... Like, there are literally menus that the controller cannot navigate. At all.
Yeah, it's a shame when that happens. Risk of Day 2.
But most of them you can. But there's like a couple you can't at all, which is awful. But in general, the way that it's an RPG, so it's got layered menus. Here's the crazy part. So if you have a menu and you open a submenu, you can leave the submenu to go to higher level menus without closing any of them, and it's a disaster. It's so bad. I can't believe how bad it is, and people have complained about this on their like Discord and whatever, and their basic response is like, we'll fix controller support when we release it on consoles. And I'm sorry, but like
that never happens. That literally never happens.
The first game controls, like, a controller worked fine for the first game. And like I'm not even talking about like, oh, it's co-op, like it's you could do like local co-op, and so it would be nice if one controller, like characters were assigned to specific controllers. I'm not even talking about that. Even if you just are using one controller for playing all the characters, it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't work. I literally cannot play the game with a controller. I have to keep a mouse around just to use certain menus, because you can't use them, or just to use some menus that you can technically use with a controller, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't wrap. Like, it doesn't wrap around certain menus. It just like leaves the menu and goes off to some other menu, or like the board. And it's like, I have made so many mistakes where like I accidentally do something that I didn't mean to do because the controller doesn't work properly. The mouse just flickers in and out, like, because you're using a controller. I'm like, it's so bad. Anyway, yeah, I'll complain about this later on another episode when I talk more about For the King 2. But holy shit, worst controls I've ever seen.
Just public service announcements to developers of anything. Make looping menus. It's so easy to do. There's no reason why like almost every menu should be able to loop. Yeah. Unless there's like a menu with only like 3 options or something like that, it should loop.
This isn't... Yeah, okay, but this is... So, if it doesn't loop, normally it would just stop at the bottom. This one doesn't even stop at the bottom. It just goes off to some other menu instead. Like, it's crazy. Ugh. I've never seen anything like it. They're the worst menus I've ever used with a controller. Like, with a mouse, with a mouse and keyboard, the game's basically fine. But it's like they never even play tested it with a controller. It's disgusting.
now that Steam has started to put like specifically like controller support information on your Steam library. I wonder what it says for that. If it says partial controller support or not.
I think it just says that it's support. I can check right now. I think it says it's just supported because it
just supports your controller. That's just lying then.
Well, it supports a controller. It's just that
the controller will work.
Yeah,
our menus will not though.
Yeah, the controller works, but the menus don't. Anyway, yeah, full controller support is what Steam says about it.
Fuck that.
But it's gross. And then the other thing is, even if they make good on their promise to fix controller support when they release the console version, that's not until like Q4 2024.
Oh.
Which is like, so you're literally saying that you literally launched a game and you're just like, yeah, it doesn't support controllers for a year. What kind of roadmap is that? Like, that's ridiculous. And again, controllers worked fine in the first game, and the game is actually, it seems like it's very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if it's basically the same engine. So I have no idea why they had a game with functional controllers support, and then they completely broke it for the second game. Like, utterly unreal to me.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not even just like I know we talked a little bit about this, and I suspect you would have nominated BattleBit for being a first-person shooter that just doesn't support a controller. But at least you, but it. So with
I had like 4 different games I could nominate for worst controllers.
But anyway, I'm more forgiving of like the developers just never added controller support really, and you have to manually set some stuff up. Because then at least it's like, okay, the game just doesn't support it. Here, it's like it recognizes controllers and says it supports it, but it doesn't at all, which is way worse to me.
Yeah, because you can't really do anything about it.
No, and you wouldn't even know that it doesn't support them until you try to play the game, and then like it'll mostly work until it doesn't. I didn't even realize that certain menus literally cannot be navigated with a controller until like a few hours into the game or something, because it's actually rare. There's only a very small number of menus that it doesn't work at all on, which is really weird. Like that's what I mean. It's just nonsensical. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, let's move on from that. Matt, what's your next personal category?
The Shadow Drop Award.
Oh, okay.
And this is I just want to give more recognition to Hi-Fi Rush because this game literally came out of nowhere. It was announced in a Microsoft presentation and dropped the same day.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
There was like no rumors or anything about it, like nothing about being in development or anything. It's just out same day, not even a full price game. Just dropped. There it is.
Yeah, like that. Shadow drops happen. They feel like they happen more often now than they have before. But usually it's like DLC or it's like a spin-off or like something a lot smaller than this. But this felt like like a fairly full, well-realized game that just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder.
Pretty crazy.
I kind of wonder if this is partly just because it was on Game Pass, right?
Yeah. So it is Microsoft first party because it's
I'm kind of wondering.
Published by Bethesda. I can't remember the name of the studio that made it right now, but it's the people behind The Evil Within.
Yeah, but I'm kind of just wondering if this is going to be
like Grasshopper.
It might be.
I'm kind of just wondering if this is going to be part of like Microsoft's strategy going forward. Is just because like the whole idea of Game Pass in a more medium long term is that basically Microsoft will essentially just support developers to make a game, and then in theory if it's done well it actually relieves a bit of the pressure of like, okay, well you have we committed to releasing the game on this date, therefore we're gonna crunch and there's this big ad campaign and all this stuff. Whereas like with Game Pass, in theory, it's a lot easier, it seems, to just drop something on like unannounced, and then now it's on Game Pass, and people I think are a lot more willing to like try it out because if they're already paying for Game Pass, what's like just spending half an hour to see if it's worth trying out. And then if it is actually good, then it can blow up really fast because a lot more people are willing to try it, and then just generate like viral kind of excitement for it. So it's kind of interesting to see if this is going to be something that they just do a lot more going forward, because it like dropping a game unannounced seems like it just works better in a way with the Game Pass kind of funding model.
Honestly, I like when something just comes out of nowhere. It's a really nice surprise. Just something that's good, just not on anyone's radar. Just here it is.
Mm. Oh, and to correct earlier, it's not Grasshopper Studio. Grasshopper is Suda 51 Studio.
Right.
This was Tango Gameworks.
Tango.
I don't really
Is he
know
even
that
doing it? Are they even doing anything anymore?
What, Grasshopper?
Yeah, the only thing I even remember about them was what was that? Killing
Floor?
No,
not Killing Floor.
No, not Killing Floor. It was the sword one. The sword one on the Wii. And there was like a couple of them. I thought it was
No More Heroes?
No More Heroes. Why was I thinking that the word killing was in its title? Yeah, No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2. Those are the only things I can even think of from that studio.
No More Heroes 3 came out in 2021. There's a bunch of weird other games. But like for 2024, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop and Shadows of the Damned Remastered.
Lollipop Chainsaw.
So they got some remasters of
I don't know.
A couple 360 games coming out.
I feel like that's it's one of those studios that I feel like I just don't play those games.
Yeah.
that's really what it is.
I've tried No More Heroes on 2 occasions. I just not for me.
All right. So my last personal category is dumbest game.
Mm.
And that's Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Everything about this game is so incredibly stupid. The font choice for the subtitles, the voice acting, the sheer amount of fist bumps that are in it, the story, the dialogue, the fact that you can put fedoras on most of your characters.
Yeah.
Because all the equipment that you equip gets reflected on the character's model, which is insane. The main character has
cutscenes. That's the best part.
Yep,
when
including
the ridiculous shit
cutscenes.
is
Yes,
in the cutscenes.
The main character has an MP3 player that shows up 3 times in the game. Technically it's a prequel to the first Final Fantasy, and it's an isekai. It's so stupid. The main character going on and on about chaos is so stupid.
I have to destroy chaos.
And I mean, I know the plot of the first Final Fantasy, so I saw every twist of this game coming a mile away. But they were just all handled so stupidly. This is I can't say it's the biggest ratio of budget to campiness, because that doesn't necessarily work, but it's if you think of the most high budget super campy thing, I think this takes the cake. Because the game looks very, very good. All the models, the environments, the enemies, they all look very good.
How's it play?
It plays okay. It's trying to be a little bit of that Souls-like by having
I think it's because it's
Team Ninja.
Made it?
So it's more
Neo. So it's more Neo-like.
Yeah, because there's heavy animations that take a long time, big wind-ups for enemies and stuff like that. But you have a couple party members, which makes the combat just a goddamn mess in a lot of ways. And a lot of, at least to me, it felt like a lot of some of the inputs to choose different attacks that you're trying to do felt pretty punishing. I couldn't do some of them very consistently, so I ended up fairly mashing my way through. I only really figured out that I should be using the parry a lot more on the final boss. Before that I was just dodging, but the final boss has some attacks where jump at you and do an area of effect attack where you just literally can't really dodge out of the way of, so you kind of have to parry. So I didn't learn how to play the game properly until the final boss. And the end credit song is "My Way" by Frank Sinatra.
Classic song.
And it's
okay.
and it's really funny in the there's a section in the options that's like guidelines for streaming, and it's like you can stream any parts of the game except for Frank Sinatra.
See, I thought you were going to say
what?
My Way by Limp Bizkit, and somehow that would have fit better in my head.
I mean, in terms of just tone, that would have actually fit perfectly within the game. But just to hear fucking My Way being performed while the credits roll, where all the credits names come up, like they're scrolling, but they light up halfway up the screen as like blood splatters behind them. Because this game is also very bloody. This game is so stupid. I'm like kind of glad I played it, but it wasn't worth my time.
What a statement!
It's like it doesn't.
Glad I played this thing. It wasn't worth my time.
It's not so bad it's good. It's so bad it's interesting. That's the best way I think I can put it. Like, it's not a objectively bad game, but it does so many things just odd or wrong that I kind of couldn't put it down. I was fascinated by it.
I mean, that's kind of why I enjoy a bad movie more than a mediocre movie.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A bad movie can be very enjoyable. A mediocre movie is just eh.
So it was a train wreck that you couldn't stop playing.
Yeah, it's a car crash that you can't look away from.
Did you suplex it?
Yes. There are suplexes, kind of. Like what there's like a
train crash.
There's like a glory kill system where like if you deplete an enemy's gauge, you can like insta kill them, and there's different animations for each enemy. One of them, literally, the guy picks them up. It's like a humanoid fish thing, puts them in a backbreaker position, like, and it's just a straight up wrestling move.
All right. Sure, Final Fantasy. Okay.
Oh, and the like all the equipment gets reflected on your character, but the equipment that your character start off with are just like t-shirts and jeans and like Adidas like
well, I mean, they've been
basketball
isekai.
Shoes.
They're not prepared for this.
Kind of, but well, okay, they kind of are prepared for it because it's an isekai, but it's also a time loop. It's a mess. It's a goddamn mess. I'm gonna stop talking about it and we can move on.
All right. Right. So my next category, my personal category, is most capitalist game. Yeah.
Was it on the Steam capitalism sale?
I didn't buy it at the capitalism sale, so I'm not sure. But yeah, the most capitalist game for me that I played this year is Hard Space Shipbreaker.
Of course.
Yeah. This game has it has an incredible intro cinematic. But then also, apart from that, just the opening of the game is basically that you sell yourself into slavery, and the game actually forces you to like read a contract, literally signing away your life, and there's a bunch of like really, I wish I had taken some notes, but there's a bunch of really funny just like jokes and things in this like giant kind of, it's actually not that big, it's readable, but it's a hilarious contract, and there's like things about like, the Martian conglomerate, blah 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 in there, and just silly sort of jokes about kind of a hypothetical super dystopian future. And the very first thing that happens after you kind of sell yourself into slavery is that you are killed, because that's how the lore for how because when you die you obviously get revived and keep playing, and the lore for how this works is that there's like a genetic backup system, and the very first thing that happens to you after you sign your life away literally is that you are killed in order to make backups of you. And so technically your character is just always a clone. you are only a clone. You never play as your character. You only play as like just clones because your original character died in the opening, which is kind of like super, yeah, like the lore of the game, background of the game, super dystopian capitalist society, and also you're put into this giant like quadrillion dollars of debt or something that you have to work off by basically salvaging spaceships, and that's the sort of the driver for playing the game is kind of salvaging spaceships. And then the story has this thing about like unionizing, and they're like union busting and things like that. But in general, it's very much like a sort of satirical dystopian capitalist kind of take on the future. But also, I just wanted to nominate the game in general because I think it's a great game. It's sort of a very interesting. It's a very interesting, almost like puzzle game. It's almost chill, but also not at the same time. Because technically, you can take as long as you want, but but
there's also like the risk of explosive decompression.
There's also but then there's also risks of explosive decompression and just like one wrong move and you blow your spacesuit open and just suffocate to death, and obviously every day if you don't make enough salvage, then your debt could theoretically actually just go up, especially if you die, because every time you die, that's extra money. Every death puts you further in debt because it's very expensive to revive you. So definitely the most capitalist game for sure.
I wonder if I feel like the game should have an achievement that's to double your debt.
Oh, that would be an incredible achievement. No. That would be so hard to get to, because you'd basically just have to kill yourself. Like attempt to kill yourself over and over. That would be the fastest way to do that. It'd be a hilarious achievement. Yeah. Game also looks great, and it's by Blackbird Interactive. So that was my homeworld. That was my homeworld fix. Played hard Space Shipbreaker.
Your homeworld away from home?
My homeworld away from home. World, yes.
All right.
Got a great ship design. Very cool sci-fi aesthetic.
All right. So my last personal category is best from the backlog.
Ooh.
And this goes to Fury.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the boss rush game?
Yes.
Nice. I think I own that as well. And it looked sweet.
With the sick Carpenter Brute soundtrack?
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's one thing. The soundtrack is great. But yeah, no, it's a game that it's easy to pick up, but it's hard to master. And yeah, all the game is boss fights and walking to the next boss fight.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's got it's simple but really good combat. Like you've got your parry, obviously, your dodge. You've got your it's actually like part melee combat, part twin stick shooter, because your other stick is to shoot your gun. It's very fun. It's got like 3 different endings that required 2.5 playthroughs, which I did do. But yeah, and then like each time just get better and better, but because it's just like, yeah, as I said, easy to pick up, hard to master. But yeah, no, it's really fun. And it's a game I had actually started a little bit a number of years back, because I had gotten it. I think I had gotten it from PlayStation Plus.
Oh, right. PlayStation Plus. I completely forgot that was even a thing.
But I don't have that anymore. So I ended up picking it up on the Steam winter sale, and just playing through it again. Well, starting and going through it all. Just over the course of like 2 days. Like it's not a long game, because there's only, how many bosses are there? I think there's only like 9 or 10 bosses. So it's a quick play, but some of those bosses can be pretty challenging, and like there's one boss which you need to be on your parry game.
Nice.
Cool.
So that's actually like kind of a nice segue because that was best from the backlog. Now we're going on to the best game we're still playing, which is, games that we've started in previous years that we just weren't able to put down in the year 2023. I've got a few that I could nominate here, and it's more like, do I take the literal wording or the spirit of the category? Because technically I played through Fire Emblem a couple of times this year. And that's, one of my favorite games I'm still playing 15-something years later. But I think what I'm going to nominate, because this is the only year that I think I could nominate it here, is I'm going to nominate Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX. Because, I've continued to keep up with the competitive scene for it, embracing monsters for the always hilarious AI run tournaments. But as, time's gone on, it's a lot of investment to make a competitive monster. Not nearly as much as like old Pokemon or anything like that. But it's still, 2 to 4 hours of my time to make a monster, sometimes only for one like gimmick tournament with a very specific rule set. And I've just kind of got burnt out this year. It's not to say this is a bad game. It's still great, and I've still really enjoyed my time with it. But in terms of like what I should be spending my game playing time doing, I kind of have to stop doing this, just to play more games, because I didn't play nearly as many games this year as I wanted to. And then looking at like my Steam wrap up for how many hours I put into this game, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what the problem is.
So this is you announcing your retirement from competitive Monster Hunter?
Monster Rancher. God, you do this Monster every Rancher. Time, man. Kind of. I'm going to finish up the one of the current big leagues that are going, and maybe if there's like a very interesting rule set, or a rule set that I've already made a monster for that I could just enter and not have to spend any time making something new for. Sure, but yeah. I'm retiring. I won a couple tournaments, not very many, but I've got like Perler in the background here.
That our listeners cannot see.
Nope. All right, so yeah, that's mine.
Well, I guess I'll go next because of my slip up.
I mean, listen, it could have been worse. You could have said Monster Breeder.
But the best game I'm still playing is I jumped back into Monster Hunter World.
Nice.
Oh, man. Okay. That's where it came from.
Monsters.
With the announcement of Monster Hunter... with the announcement of Monster Hunter
Rise?
Wilds.
Oh, man. There's so many Monster Hunter games.
Coming in 2025, Monster Hunter World has been doing numbers again on Steam with breaking record. Well, I wouldn't say records, but breaking numbers that it hasn't seen since like 2020 in terms of like people playing. People are just hyped up for the next one, and they're just hopping back onto World, and I'm there too.
I think Monster Hunter World is Capcom's most successful game.
Yes, I believe it is. I think it kind of helped save Capcom a bit there.
Yeah, like that, and I forget when that came on in relation to like Resident Evil 7, but like those two definitely like saved the sinking ship for sure.
But yeah, no, Monster Hunter definitely seems to be their big one of their big ones now.
Yeah.
It always seemed to be like it always had people playing it, like even when
it was always like Japan only until Monster Hunter World literally broke worldwide.
And then it did have 3DS games and stuff, like it was here, but like I think it was more niche.
Yeah, exactly.
World definitely brought it to the forefront.
It was more niche. Monster Hunter World was the first time I've heard people who used to say "fuck Monster Hunter," play it and be like, "Oh, I get it now."
And I'll be playing more because I never did actually get to the DLC back when I played it the first time. So, and actually with the DLC, because I repurchased it on Steam, and they actually with the DLC, they give you some pretty nice armor and the option to craft some more powerful weapon, like a more powerful weapon early on, just so you can get through all the early stuff really quick.
Okay, so man, I'm kind of torn. Like, there's two games. I'm thinking here for best game we're still playing. One of them I know Santa will know, and then it's so obvious. But then I'm like, if I nominate Risk of Rain 2, it might win something this year, and then the DLC will come out, and then we nominate it again next year, or I nominate FTL. And I'm really torn because, I think I actually played a lot of Risk of Rain 2 and a lot of FTL this year. They're both a bit older at this point. We've talked a lot about Risk of Rain 2, I feel like. Or maybe we haven't. Maybe we've just played
We've talked around Risk of Rain 2 a lot. We've not actually talked about it a lot on podcast.
Yeah, then fuck it. We're not going to nominate Risk of Rain 2 again. And by again, I mean we've never nominated it before, I think.
Don't believe so.
So, yeah, Risk of Rain 2, best game we're still playing. I think the reason we never nominated it for a GUI before is just because we started playing it so like before we were hosting the GUIs.
Yeah, we started playing it in 2020.
Yeah,
which was before we start podcasting.
Yeah, but Risk of Rain 2 is still just we have hundreds of hours. Like I think I have over 300 hours. I think Santo, you've got like over 400 or something.
A little more than that.
Okay.
I have 799 hours.
Holy shit. Okay, so
my God.
Risk of Rain 2.
Well, that's an active game. That's not like me leaving it on. So
it is.
Well, I played a lot of solo stuff trying to, complete everything on Eclipse.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things, like the Eclipse mode, where it just every time you beat it, it adds like a new challenge to the game, and they're like serious upgrade or serious challenges.
Yeah, very,
like
very
one of them that's like really brutal actually is like the enemies get plus 40% movement speed, which is crazy.
Yeah, like that's brutal.
It's a lot, and. Yeah, so like Eclipse has added so much playtime to that, and it makes the game a lot harder, and you lose a lot of runs, sure, but it's the core gameplay loop on Risk of Rain 2 is just so tight and so enjoyable that you can just add these arbitrarily escalatingly hard challenges, and it actually just extends the playable lifetime of the game dramatically. Once you're kind of good enough to be able to tackle the game on Monsoon at least, because Eclipse is always on Monsoon difficulty, which is hard difficulty. And and then the game's still getting some updates. It's got a couple DLC, or it's got another DLC planned. And
that's why I this is hypocritical of me to say. For a reason I don't want it to win is because they did literally nothing to the game this year. They pushed one they pushed one update that broke my settings, that didn't actually add anything, didn't fix anything. It's from the looks of things. I know it's hypocritical because my nomination is a game that is a really like the most bare bones re-release you could of a 25-year-old game or whatever. So like
I know, that's why I was tempted to nominate FTL, but FTL would be probably the best baby game, I think. I should have thrown that category in there, but...
All right, best game to play while holding a baby, FTL. There we go.
FTL. Yeah, best game to play with while holding a baby is FTL. That's right. Just throw that one in there, just casual.
Sure. Yeah, I don't even know. Do we even pick a winner for this one? This one seems like the most arbitrary.
I feel like this is also kind of a personal category.
Yeah. Okay, I think we cop out and not pick something here.
We cop out. Best game we're playing as individuals.
Sure. Yeah.
Or still playing. Best game we're still playing. I think I said playing.
All right. So that's gonna do it for.
Besides, if we cop out and Risk of Rain 2 doesn't get an award, then when the DLC comes out, it can get like an award next year.
I mean, our rules aren't that strict. That
we're
like I said, like I said, if you play the Outer Wilds DLC and it's great, feel free to nominate for stuff.
We're meta GooYs.
Feels like if you feel like the addition is big enough to warrant, a nomination, sure. But in terms of DLC, this is just the base game of our GUIs, because we got part 2 coming up in a separate podcast. So let's kind of go over part 1 of the actual categories that we had. Because we had the New Year's resolution games. Not going to go over those. We had best looking game, which nominations Honkai Star Rail and Super Mario Wonder, with the winner Sea of Stars. Best dog, we have Unnamed Dog from Resident Evil 4 Remake, Poochie from Yoshi's Crafted World, with the winner being Mechadad from Line Monster Farm. Best character, we had Particio from Octopath Traveler 2, the pilot from Risk of Rain Returns, and the winner being Chai from Hi-Fi Rush. And for most game, we had nominees Marvel Snap and Tears of the Kingdom, with the winner being Noita. And we also had, our personal categories, the best game we're still playing. But, I'm not going to recap those. So, now you can anticipate our next podcast, where we'll go over our most anticipated games, our best level, the weirdest game crossover of the year, the best music, the Lo-Fi Award for chill games to relax to, the biggest bummer, and finally, the game of our year. So stay tuned to that. And that's 3 Levels Deep signing off. Cheers.
See ya.
Goodbye.